So we have some big Social Security updates that we need to get to today because there are some very important things that are happening today, but also are likely going to stretch into the following week. Now, I want to break down what's going on, why Social Security could be impacted in a major way because of what happens today. So again, I'll break all this down in just a moment, but all I ask is one thing. It takes 2 seconds. Go ahead, hit that like button if you enjoy these daily updates. And now, let's begin. So first off, what major changes have happened to Social Security? Well, there is something that happened just the other day. The Senate advanced the Social Security Fairness Act bill. This means it's going to push it to a final vote, and all it needs is the majority of the vote. It doesn't need to pass the filibuster of 60 votes like it just did yesterday. That's very important. But this could actually be pushed to the back burner, and there's a reason why. Look at this right here. It says, government shutdown live updates. Congress scrambles to reach funding deal before Saturday. It says government funding expires at 12:01 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Saturday if lawmakers fail to pass a short-term spending bill. Well, it's kind of what's happening because initially the bill that many Democrats really wanted, that was shot down by President-elect Donald Trump. But just the other day, a Trump-backed spending bill to avert the government shutdown, well, that failed in a House vote as well. So at this time, we have 2 bills that have not passed, and we have until midnight tonight to get this done. We are up against the clock. And this government shutdown or potential government shutdown, well, is likely going to impact Social Security. And I will address how in just a moment. First, look at this. Speaker Mike Johnson says that Republicans have a Plan C, and that this Plan C will avert a government shutdown. The vote is expected to happen today. So that's good news there. But I want to show you this, okay? Right now, there's a lot of people that are speculating because of what both parties are wanting. Okay, I want to show you this, kind of give you an idea of what we are seeing. Look at this right here. I'm just going to read the fast facts. It says President-elect Donald Trump and President-elect J.D. Vance argued that the 1,547-page interim spending bill would give sweetheart provisions for government censors and for Liz Cheney. They also decried how the package would make it easier to hide the records of the corrupt January 6th committee, which accomplished nothing for the American people and hid security failures that happened that day, and would also give Congress a pay increase while many Americans are struggling this Christmas. That is something that many people have argued. How can we continue to give the people that we elect into office, why do they continue to get pay increases when the American people continue to struggle? Goes on to say, says a streamlined version of the bill backed by Trump to avert a partial government shutdown failed to pass the House of Representatives on Thursday night. The bill, which needed 2/3 of the House chamber to pass, it fell 174 to 235. Says the deadline to avoid a shutdown is late Friday. It comes after 2 days of chaos in Congress as lawmakers fought among themselves about a path forward on government spending. The national debt has soared to over $36 trillion, and the national deficit is over $1.8 trillion. Okay. So the first thing isn't to pay back the $36 trillion. No. It's to not operate at a deficit every single year. How can we operate on a surplus, meaning the amount of money we spend is less than the revenue that we bring in? Well, in order to do that, we first have to get rid of about $1.8 trillion in spending per year. That's where things are going to be, well, we're going to float different ideas. This is where some say Social Security could be impacted because we could see less money go into Social Security, We could see less money going to Medicare and to Medicaid and to SNAP food benefits. Right? We could see a lot less benefits being doled out simply because we have to pay back the money that we've spent over the past several years. Well, many people don't want to do that, especially if they're receiving some of these benefits. Well, this is where we get to the next thing. Okay? Like I said, the Senate has already advanced the bill, the Social Security Fairness Act. So now they just need the final vote, which could happen today. But again, this is where things get, well, a little bit murky. We don't know if they will continue to negotiate and continue to attempt to pass this Social Security Fairness Act if the government shuts down. Because at that point, the priority, the number one thing that needs to be done is the government would need to be funded. Because if not, hundreds of thousands of people will be out of work immediately. As of tomorrow morning, hundreds of thousands of people will be out of work. Now, here's the good thing. Your Social Security checks will still come. Even if the U.S. government that does not get funded gets shut down as of Saturday morning at 12:01 a.m. Eastern Time, you will still get your Social Security check even if the government isn't funded for the next month. It doesn't matter. Your Social Security check will still come as long as you've already received one check. If you've received one check, then your checks will continue to come. But if in January, that is the time where your first check is going to come, well, I'd hate to say it, but you may not get that check. Okay? Your first check had to already come. Now, the big thing, will the Social Security Fairness Act actually clear? Will it pass? According to reports, this is something that is going to pass. It's just a matter of time. But if the U.S. government does shut down because lawmakers cannot agree to a pathway forward, well, then we may have some issues here. The Social Security Fairness Act could be rediscussed. They could go back on their word, on their plans of pushing this through. Even though many lawmakers agree that this is something that is far past due, you got to give the money to the firefighters and the police officers, some of the government workers. You got to make sure that they're getting their money. Okay, we can't punish them just because they worked for the federal government. Okay. Now, I want to read this to you. Somebody sent me this and they were extremely worried. How does a government shutdown affect Social Security payments? What you need to know. Well, I'm not going to read this entire thing, but I want to read a little bit of it. It says, if the federal government shuts down this weekend, work at numerous publicly funded agencies would slow or stop altogether, while millions of government employees would stop receiving paychecks. But Social Security benefits would still go out. What you need to keep in mind is that Social Security is it's a mandatory program. Okay? You pay into it, it pays out every single month. You're still going to get your check. Okay? Don't worry about that. Here's where things get very interesting. There are certain programs or certain employees, agencies within the U.S. government that people are required to show up to work. Even though they may not get paid, they are required to show up to work. And here's what I'm talking about. There are certain employees that they are deemed necessary and essential. So if without them, we would see a lot of chaos. So they have to come into work. The same thing for Congress, right? Congress has to show up to work. They are deemed essential, okay? They are necessary. As a result, they show up to work. They may not get paid for that month, okay? Until the government is funded, and then they would get back pay for all the days that they've been there. The same thing for many of these federal workers. You would get paid, okay? But it might not be every week. It might not be in the next month. Whenever the government funding goes through, that's when you would get paid. So, Social Security, you're good to go, okay? Don't worry about that. You will get your money. The next thing, okay, I want to read this to you. It says right here, other federal benefit programs would not be affected right away, but could be affected if a shutdown drags on. Another big one is SNAP benefits. It says individuals who receive SNAP benefits or Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program benefits, previously known as food stamps, would continue to receive their benefits for 30 days. After that, the program would start to rely on reserve funding, at which point furloughs at the U.S. Department of Agriculture, which administers SNAP, could begin to affect benefits distribution. Okay, simple, right? This is the issue, and this is why I'm bringing this to your attention today. Right now, we have a little bit of a concern that the United States government might not be funded. Now, there are plans. Speaker Mike Johnson says he does have a plan C, that this could avert a government shutdown. But again, this is the Speaker of the House. He has no control over the Senate. Okay? He doesn't even have full control over the House. Keep in mind, right now, Republicans do not have the majority in the House. Okay? Democrats do. Democrats hold the majority in the House. Republicans hold the majority in the House. However, it's a very slim majority. Democrats hold the majority in the Senate. Okay, that's also where the Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, okay, he's the one running it. If he doesn't like a bill for whatever reason, he does not have to put it on the floor of the Senate. And then President Biden, he still has to sign it. So right now, just because Speaker Mike Johnson says he has a plan C does not mean the Senate's going to pass this bill, and it doesn't mean President Biden will like it and sign that bill either. He may veto the entire thing. So, as of right now, there's a lot of discussions, but everything right now could impact Social Security, could impact SNAP benefits, Medicare, Medicaid, the way that the U.S. moves forward. Everything right now is really up for grabs. So, we'll see what happens moving forward, but that is what we know as of today. So again, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.